Magandang araw, Sir Wilbur po, at your service. Narito ang ETUlay upang gabayan ka sa inyong pag-aaral upang lubos na maunawaan ang iba't ibang paksa o subject. Ang ETUlay ay isang free online tutorial class na pinangungunahan ng DepEd Educational Technology Unit sa pamumuno ni Undersecretary Elaine Del P. Pascua. Ang programang ito ay hindi lamang para sa mga bata, kundi ito rin ay magsisilbing gabay sa mga magulang at mga guro kung paano nila ituturo o gagabayan sa bawat asignatura ang kanilang mga anak o mga estudyante. Sa kasalukuyan, ang self-learning module mula sa rehiyon ng Calabarzon at kilala sa tawag na pivot ang ginagamit sa ating ETUlay online class. Kaya ano pang hinihintay ninyo? Ihanda na ang inyong mga ballpen o lapis, papel o kwaderno at samahan kaming itulay ang pagkatuto para sa bawat batang Pilipino. Sama-sama tayong magtutulungan para malampasan ang mga hamon sa panahong ito. Halina't matuto kasama ang inyong online tutor sa oras na ito.
Okay, magandang hapon sa ating lahat at muli tayo magsasama-sama sa loob ng 40 hanggang 60 minuto para sa ating isa na namang talakayan para sa Practical Research 2 ng Senior High School. At muli po, ito ang iyong Tutor Ronald. At sa linggong ito, tayo po ay nasa ika-4 na linggo or week 4 ng ating quarter 4. Ang ating tatalakayin ay tungkol sa data collection procedures. So ano nga ba ang iba't ibang types of data collection procedures sa research, particularly sa quantitative research. At upang gabayan tayo sa ating talakayan, ang ating objective na hinango mula sa ating Most Essential Learning Competencies Guide ay ang ating objective ay Plans Data Collection Procedure. At bago tayo magtungo sa ating talakayan, para sa oras na ito, balikan muna natin ang ating pinag-aralan nung nakaraang linggo, week 3. At kung ating matatandaan ang ating tinalakay noong nakaraang linggo ay tungkol sa designing o paggawa ng research instrument at establishing the validity and reliability of the research instrument. At ang research instrument nga na ating binigyang tuon ay ang questionnaire. So, tingnan natin kung naalala ninyo ang ating pinag-aralan noong nakaraang linggo by completing the following statements. So, to complete the statements, choose the letter of the correct answer. So sa mga nakasubaybay sa ating Facebook page ng DepEd Philippines at DepEd Edtech Unit at sa FB page at sa YouTube, maaari po kayong sumagot by typing your answer, the letter of your answer sa ating comment box. Ayan, batiin muna natin ang ating watchers from sa Facebook, si Elizabeth Stulatan Sandoval from San Antonio National High School at si nunood din po si Alming from Matanawan, sino to? Alma Gorgonio. Okay, so ang sagot po sa letter A ay yes, tama kayo. Ito ay letter A, validity. No? Validity is a degree to which a test measures what it claims or purports to be measuring. So isa po yan sa mga characteristics ng isang um, questionnaire, ng isang magandang questionnaire para sa research. At yan po ay isa rin po sa dapat nating establish, para sa ating gagamiting questionnaire. Next, number 2, same choices. Pero ang statement po ay blank refers to a condition where measurement process yields consistent responses over repeated measurement. So ano nga po kaya ang tamang sagot sa number 2? Is it A, validity, B, reliability, C, credibility, or D, integrity? Ayan, watching din po si Maricel Panganibay at si Patricia Ngausi. So, ang tamang sagot po sa ating item number 2 ay reliability. So, reliability refers to a condition where measurement process yields consistent responses over repeated measurement. So, reliability po ay isa rin po sa mga conditions or characteristics na dapat nating pagtuunan ng pansin na upang ang ating questionnaire ay maging isang valid or maging isang magkaroon ng accurate, magkaroon ng accurate data. Next, number 3, blank consists of a series of questions that respondents provide answers to a research study. Ayan. Is it A, interview guide? Is it B, construct? C, questionnaire? Or D, variable? So again po, blank consists of a series of questions that respondents provide answers to a research study. So usually, these series of questions are written on a piece of paper. Or if it is online, of course, it's on a, let's say, Google Sheet or Microsoft Word file or document. So number 3, the correct answer is questionnaire. So you have there already the clue to the answer, no? Blank consists of a series, or questionnaire consists of a series of questions. The respondents provide answers to a research study. Next, number 4, blank is most often measured by experts familiar with the construct being measured. Again, when we say construct, it's the characteristics or attributes of the variable that we are trying to measure in our research study. So, yan po ang meaning ng construct sa research. So, ang sagot ba ay A, face validity, construct validity, letter B, criterion related validity, letter C, or D, content validity. So, ano po ang ating sagot sa number 4? What type of validity? No? Which is measured by experts familiar with the constructs being measured. So, ang tamang sagot ay may sumagot sa ating Facebook watchers according to Rochelle Felix Taala. Letter C ay I don't know if this is in number 4 or siguro kanina to sa number 3. Okay, meron tayo from Santa Fe, Leyte, Florencio Pedrosa Canillas watching. Hello po, kababayan. I'm from Haro, Leyte. Um, wala pang ibang sagot dyan. So, ang number 4, ang tamang sagot po ay, ayan, content validity. So, content validity kapag ang mini-measure ay or ang nag-check ng validity ay experts, no, familiar with the construct being measured. So for example, if one of your variables about performance, academic performance, so probably the experts that will analyze or evaluate the validity of your questionnaire probably are teachers or educators, no, master teachers. So, content validity ang tawag po sa assessment na yan ng validity. Okay, number 5. Which of the following steps in designing the questionnaire is the second step? So we have the following steps. Letter A, establishing the validity of the questionnaire. Letter B, pilot testing of the questionnaire. Letter C, questionnaire conceptualization. Or letter D, stating the background, purpose, objective of the questionnaire. So which is the second step among the 4? But just to review, there are 6 steps. No, there are 6 steps in designing the questionnaire. But for this particular question, we're only asking for the second step, no, out of the 4 steps given as choices. And for number 5, the question is letter, ayan, si Melissa Rosales, letter C ang sagot. Si Ma'am Nicanor, letter D. Si Sir Florencio, letter B. Okay, tingnan natin ang tamang sagot. Ayan, letter C is the correct answer. So, questionnaire conceptualization ang tamang sagot. Yes, good afternoon, Suzette Hamili. Tama, so tama si Melissa Rojas Sales. Ayan. So, those are the 5 questions for our review, or our first learning task, which is about, again, our discussion last week, about designing the questionnaire and establishing validity and reliability. So we discuss also, or specifically, the steps, the steps in designing the questionnaire. So from the 4 here in number 5 question, the first step is stating the background or the purpose or objective of the questionnaire. So the second step is conceptualizing your questionnaire. And again, when you conceptualize your questionnaire, there are some considerations, to follow. And then after you conceptualize the questionnaire, next thing you do is establish the validity of the questionnaire. Of course, after the validity, the reliability of the questionnaire, and then pilot test the questionnaire, and finally revise the questionnaire based on the recommendations or remarks or comments after the pilot testing of the questionnaire. So the last step is revising the questionnaire. All right. Now let's proceed to our main topic of discussion for this afternoon, which is about planning data collection procedure. So, designing your research instrument or your questionnaire is just one of the data collection method or procedure that you might consider in collecting your data. So aside from questionnaire, there are other data collection procedure types. No? But of course, these types of data collection procedure are part of your planning, no, the data collection procedure. So you have to know these types. So what is first data collection? Ayan, data collection refers to the process of gathering information. So it's a process of gathering information, meaning you need to undergo certain um, certain procedures or steps or process in gathering your information. Then the data that you will collect should be able to answer the questions you posed in your statement of the problem. That's why it is important that you know type, the type of data collection procedure you will use, and of course, the questions and if it's a questionnaire, that you will use, so that the data you will collect should be able to answer the questions in your statement of the problem. That's why planning your data collection procedure is important. Okay, so the data, uh, since we said the data collection procedure is a process, so after the data are collected, these are recorded, no, and organized and translated to measurement scales and entered into a computer-based database for statistical computation, no. So dadaan ito ng your data will be computed statistically using software packages like Excel, statistical package for social sciences or SPSS, SAS, and other software packages used for statistical computation. So these are the types of data collection procedures. No, we have observation, survey, quantitative interview, and again questionnaire. Questionnaire. We'll discuss each of these. First, observation is the method of gathering data that is usually used in situations where the respondents cannot answer the researcher's questions to obtain information for a research study. For example, your respondents or your research is about, for example, it's about a certain community, no? Wherein in that community, the respondents, your target respondents cannot answer the questions probably because they belong to indigenous people, no? Or perhaps there are circumstances that will um, prohibit you from giving your answers or prohibit them from answering your research questions. Perhaps they could not read or understand, or they have difficulty in understanding or reading your questions. So observation is a method that you can adapt, no, in collecting your data. But of course, it also depends on the type or design, I mean your research design, and of course your research questions and your research problem. Okay? Um, Observation is structured to elicit information that could be coded to give numerical data. Since you need to measure numerical data in a quantitative research, no, your observation should be, the result of your observation should be coded. No? In other words, as a researcher, you have to prepare a checklist, no, using appropriate rating scales that may categorize the behavior, the attitudes, or attributes that you are observing, um, to answer the questions you posed in your study. No? And as you observe, no, the community or the group in the community, your sample, you will record your observation by using check marks or cross marks. So, meron ka na nakahandang listahan, checklist, no, habang nag-observe ka. And itong checklist na to ang gagamitin mo sa later on pag-code ng observations mo, and of course pag-analyze and interpret ng results, no? Kasi kailangan sa quantitative research, the data should be translated into numerical data, ano, like observation. So kahit na mga checklist yan or cross marks ang gagamitin mo, check marks or cross marks, kailangan pa rin i-translate, no, ang data into numerical data. That's why you need to do coding of the results. Okay, next, survey. So surveys can be, or quantitative data can be collected using four main types of survey. So another data collection procedure is survey. So the four main types of survey are sample survey, no, wherein the researcher collects data from a sample of a population to estimate the attributes or characteristics of the population. No? Sample survey, meaning you are doing a survey to a sample of a population. Kaya sample survey. So example survey may pertains to customer satisfaction, no, like for example when you eat at McDonald's or Jollibee, no, sometimes I remember they one of the staff gave me a parang question, a survey, um, questionnaire or paper, ano. So that's an example of sample survey that measures customer satisfaction or studies customer satisfaction. It could be also be about healthcare. No, sa Facebook, sometimes may nagpa-pop up na survey about COVID-19. No, that's a sample survey. And then politics, malapit ang election, no? Survey about possible candidates, no, if the election is um, to be held now, who do you think is your president? So sample survey on politics, market research, no, sa mga produkto, no. Sample survey din ang ginagamit. Of course, academic and education survey. Like for example, when you enrolled uh, at the start or before the start of this school year, you filled out a learner information survey form. No, so that's another example of a sample survey in the academe or education. All right. Next, administrative data. This is a survey on the organization's day-to-day operations. So, for example, sa amin, teachers or sa schools, we are asked of the updates on the number of modules, or self-learning modules distributed, printed and retrieved, hinihingan kami ng data um, about these about the modules, no. So that's an example of administrative data, and there are so many surveys that um, pertains to day-to-day operations of uh, DepEd. Of course, this kind of data is supported with various ICT tools and softwares, making it easy for organization, especially government, schools, industries, and NGOs to update their records. So, meron ng mga um, para mas madali, ang collect ng data at pag-interpret ng data, meron ng um, ready-made na template, Excel ang ginagamit, and then we just have to input, and then automatic na nagko-compute yung total number and other data needed, no, for administrative data survey. Then another type of survey is census. The researcher collects data from the selected population. It is an official count on survey of a population with details on demographics, economic and social data like age, sex, education, marital status, household size, kung ilang kayo sa inyong bahay, of course, occupation of the head of the family or the mother and the father and the other adults in the family, religion, employment data, educational qualifications, and housing, no? Meron syempre sa ating bansa census every, I do not know if it's every year, if every uh, or after 2 years, no. And this is usually census is usually done by the NSO, National Statistics Office, or the Philippine Statistical Office, Bureau of Labor Employment Statistics also conducts census. Of course, COMELEC, no? COMELEC and other national agencies like Department of Education. Meron din census, particularly on the number of learners, no, for example, nag-register for the next school year, no, number of learners uh, uh, who will graduate, no, or who dropped out or at risk of dropping out, and other data needed by a certain agency. Okay? Next, tracer studies. Tracer studies is a regular survey of those surveyed within a specific time or period. So parang na this is a follow-up, kumbaga follow-up survey. Like for example, sa senior high school, no? Um, it's a tracer study if you survey um, senior high school students after graduation, meaning were they able to uh, proceed to college, or did they proceed to college, or did they um, look for employment, no, after graduation from grade 12 from senior high school. So this is tracer study, okay, para to follow up the graduates of a certain educational um, educational institution. And the survey is usually random. Kumbaga, hindi naman kailangan lahat. No? But if it's the population is manageable, is small, then pwede lahat i, gamitin sa tracer study. So again, usually follow up study ito tungkol sa graduates, particularly on again employment, no, employment data, current occupation, uh, and competencies needed in the workplace to determine gaps in the curriculum, no, and other related activities between academe and industry. We're talking about senior high school graduates. All right. So those are the four main types of survey. No? You have again tracer studies, census, administrative data, and sample survey. Now we go to the third type of data collection procedure, which is quantitative interview. No, of course, since the subject is practical research too, no, we emphasize that the interview is quantitative interview because this data collection procedure is or can also be used, no, for qualitative interview, so this can be or maybe used both in qualitative and quantitative research study. All right. So the researcher, in conducting quantitative interview, prepares an interview guide or schedule, no, which contains the list of questions and answer options that the researcher will read to the respondent. So parang kanina sa observation, meron kang checklist, no? Meron ka nakandang checklist. Sa interview, of course, you have to prepare an interview guide or schedule. And eto yung babasahin mo sa respondent mo kasama ang options or answers. All right. This method of collecting data involves gathering information from a large representative sample. Medyo ano siya, medyo challenging, tedious, no? Medyo mahirap, no? Kasi lalo na kung malaki ang sample na gagamitin mo sa research mo, talagang tapos i-interview mo isa-isa, then mahirap. Now, because of the pandemic or the health crisis limitations and protocols, we can do telephone interview instead of face-to-face interview, di ba? Or pwede rin namang video conference, no? So, it's the same thing, babasahin mo ang questions, no, sa respondent, and of course ang options. Now what's good about this is you can have the opportunity to explain, no, the to explain the research questions. Kasi sometimes, one of the reasons bakit mahirap kumuha ng kompletong data using a questionnaire kasi yung ibang questions walang answer, 'di ba? Probably yung one of the reasons bakit hindi sinagutan is siguro hindi naintindihan yung question, lalo na if the question is an open-ended question, 'di ba? Yung mga question na why, or could you please explain your answer? So in an interview, whether it's face to face or telephone, or video conference, messenger or whatever software, you have the opportunity to again explain, no, to explain the question kung hindi maintindihan ng interviewee. And also you will be able to see the reaction, no, the reaction of the respondent, no, kung sincere ba siya sa kanyang sagot o hindi, or the facial expression, kung napipilitan lang siya, no, kung nasisinungaling ba siya. So yun ang mga advantages ng interview. Of course, again, ang ano naman niya, ang downside, ang negative, or ang tawag nito, ang disadvantage ay siguro mahihiya yung interviewee. Mahihiya yung ating interviewee sa atin, lalo na kung first time. No? But of course, sa atin na yung paano natin na yung ma, ah, ma-avoid, no, na hindi mahiya, na magsabi na totoo, nasagutin ang mga questions, no, ng ating interviewee. Okay? Of course, for the interview, kailangan din ang responses ay i-translate into numerical data, no? So kailangan din siyang i-translate into numerical data. So you will assign numerical values for the answer options of the research of the respondent. Okay? Next. We're down to the last type of this is number 4 na, hindi siya number 3, no? Ayan, number 4 na siya, sorry. Hindi ko napalitan yung number. So number 4 is questionnaire. So again, this was our discussion last week, no? This was the focus of our discussion last week, designing a research instrument or questionnaire and validating and or establishing its validity and reliability. Now, a questionnaire may be standardized or researcher made. No? Ano ang pagkakaiba ng dalawa? When you say standardized, it has gone through the process of psychometric violation and has been piloted and revised. Most of the questionnaires used in the National Achievement Test before, diba? Or the anong tawag nito? NCAE, National College Achievement Examination. I remember when I was student, nagkaroon siya ng pilot testing, before siya actually pinigay as the NCAE questionnaire for all, no? So yung pilot testing na yun, hindi lahat nag-take nung nung exam, no? Kasi pilot testing lang siya. So that's one example of standardized questionnaire. Dumatalaga siya ng proseso ng validation, no? Of course, reliability, and again, na pilot test siya and na-revise before siya pinamigay, binahagi sa lahat ng uh, um, sample or population. Alright? So, according to Sauron to 2012, there are advantages of standardized questionnaire. Siyempre, alam natin validation, no? So, valid, no? Duman siya ng or na-establish ang validity. Of course, ang reliability na-establish na. Sensitivity means it is measuring using resampling procedures to see how well the questionnaire can differentiate at a fraction of the sample size. So, meron mang pagkakaiba ang resulta nito kung hindi naman talaga lahat, no? Kumbaga binigay siya sa fraction lang ng sample ng research mo, no? Or population. And then, objectivity. So, may objectivity na ang isang standardized questionnaire. Ibig sabihin, practitioners or experts were requested to verify the statements of other practitioners in the same field. So, para objective, nagkaroon ng analysis, assessment sa remarks or comments about the questionnaire during the pilot testing. So, para objective, para hindi naman one-sided lang. So, during pilot testing, a certain group of experts, no, assess or evaluated the questionnaire, and then another group, no, analyze the statements of these experts. All right, so para objective. And there is also quantification in a standardized questionnaire. When you say quantification, it has undergone statistical analysis. So meron diyang mga item analysis, no? Wherein in an item analysis, questions or responses are changed, retained, revised, no, modified, or talagang tinatanggal or dinidelete, no? Depende yan sa item analysis or statistical analysis. And then norms is one of the advantages of using a standardized questionnaire. When you say norms, the standardized questionnaire has normalized references and databases which allow one to convert raw scores to percentile ranks. Okay? So, meron na siyang tinatawag na database or references para yung score ma-convert into percentile ranks. So those are some of the advantages of standardized questionnaire according to Sauro in 2012. Now let's have the researcher-made questionnaire. Of course, from the name itself, the questionnaire is made or was made by the researcher or researchers, no? So ginawa ng researcher or researchers, of course, for a particular study. And for a researcher-made questionnaire, the following should be discussed. Ibig sabihin, ipapaliwanag mo sa research study mo, no? Kung researcher-made questionnaire ang ginamit mo, ano mga papaliwanag mo, i-discuss sa research, no? The corrections and suggestions made on the draft to improve the instrument. Bakit kailangan mo ito ipaliwanag, by the way? Para ma-establish yung credibility nung questionnaire mo. Kasi nga, hindi siya standardized. Ibig sabihin, hindi talaga siya dumaan sa ah, um, tinatawag na standard procedure or process. Okay? So, you will discuss the corrections, the discussion, suggestions made on the draft to improve the instrument. So, kaninong corrections and suggestions? By the experts, by your research advisor, or whoever whom you consulted in revising or developing and revising your research instruments or the questionnaire. And then the different persons involved in the correction. So yun nga, i-discuss mo rin sino ba yung nag-correct, nagbigay ng suggestions nung research questionnaire mo. Okay? Or nyo. And then the pre-testing efforts and subsequent instrument revision. So, nagkaroon ba siya ng pre-testing or pilot testing, and then after the corrections and remarks or comments, nagkaroon ba ng revisions, no? And of course, the type of items used in the instruments, meaning research questions, no? You also will should discuss this in your body of your research. Of course, the reliability of the data and evidence of validity. Kasi nga, yun yung isa sa mga dapat mong isalang-alang sa questionnaire, yung validity and or establishing the validity and reliability of the research questionnaire. And then the steps involved in scoring guidelines for interpretation. So, paano mo i-interpret ang raw scores, no, or ang responses ng iyong research participants or respondents. You also have to include in your discussion of your research, no? So, discussion specifically of your questionnaire para yun nga ma-establish din yung credibility, no? Kasi ang purpose natin sa questionnaire is for us to be able to get accurate information and data. So kung faulty na yung ating questionnaire, so faulty din ang ating data, no? Karoon ng problema ang ating data. Hindi na reliable ang data kung ang questionnaire ay hindi rin reliable, no? And additional information lang to sa paggawa ng question sa yung questionnaire. Kasi nga we discussed this already last week, no? One of the guidelines is avoid leading questions. Ibig sabihin, wag mong diktahan ang respondents mo sa kung ano ang dapat nilang isagot, no? Kasi that would seem subjective or parang bias, di ba? Next, be specific with you or with what you like to measure. For example, if you want to evaluate a program, like for example, the flexible learning program, no? Be specific with what aspects of measurement you like to evaluate in the program. So, anong aspect? Is it about quality? Or is it about effectiveness of the program? So, be specific. Next, avoid unfamiliar words that the respondents might not be familiar with. Kung hindi mo na maiwasan gumamit ng unfamiliar words, no, then try to include a little explanation, short explanation. For example, flexible learning modality, no? So hindi pa wala pang masyadong alam ang respondents mo. So try to include a short explanation about the term or words, no? Next, multiple choice category should be mutually exclusive to elicit clear choices. Ibig sabihin lang ito, your choices should be um, parang logical, ano, parang hindi siya magulo. Hindi magulo in terms of concepts or ideas um, na dapat pagpilian ng respondents, no? Dapat mutually exclusive. Okay? Next, avoid personal questions which may intrude into the privacy of the respondents, like those questions pertaining to income, family life, beliefs, no, like religions or political affiliation. Pero ang income, kung kailangan naman sa research mo, siguro pwede mo pwede mo rin naman i-include. Again, meron pa namang kasing disclaimer sa questionnaire na uh, confidential ang yung ang pag-treat sa data. Ibig sabihin, ikaw lang at ang respondent ang makakaalam sa kung ano man ang mga sagot sa questionnaire. Okay? Ano pa? Avoid personal questions. Again, last week we said avoid sensitive issues or highly sensitive issues, highly sensitive questions. No? So, yun din ang dapat natin iwasan. And of course, make your question short and easy to answer. No? Kung hindi man siya short, at least easy to answer. Madali siyang sagutan. Huwag naman yung, again, puro open-ended questions ang ilalagay mo. Make it varied. I mean, make your questions varied. Meron kang open-ended, meron kang closed questions, meron kang tinatawag na dichotomous question, yung dalawang pagpipilian, di ba? Maybe meron ka ring Likert scale question, no? Yung bang, for example, in terms of quality, for example, you will say, in terms of quality, you will say, excellent, no? Average, below average. So in terms of effectiveness, perhaps you can say very effective, not effective. So these are questions that are easy to answer pag mga anong tawag nito? Likert scale na type of question o gumagamit ng Likert scale. So, closed questions yung may mga choices, no? Clear choices, no? For example, educational attainment, you have elementary, high school, senior high school, or junior high school, and then college, etc. Alright, so that ends our discussion on the types of data collection procedure. Again, we have 4 types of data collection. We started with just a review, quick review, observation, then you have survey, and then you have interview, and finally questionnaire. No? Data collection procedure in quantitative research. Now it's your turn to do some synthesis and analysis, realizations of what you have learned from our discussion. You can do this on your own, mentally perhaps, or you can try to jot your answer down on a notebook, on your notebook, no, or piece of paper. So just complete the statement. Based on the lesson, I realized that planning data collection blank. So just continue. All right. Then for our first assessment, let's try to answer this. Again, completion type uh, of answering or item. Number one, if a researcher works at a cafeteria and observes the waiters, this is an example of A. Observation, B. Interview, C. Focus group, or D. Survey. Ano nga kaya? The answer is, ayan, observation po. Observation. Yan, sumagot si Andrea Jean. 1A, observation. Number 2, if a researcher asks questions from a list and talks with the respondent face-to-face or through the telephone to gather information, the method used is, ano nga kaya ang sagot? Is it A, observation, B, interview, C, questionnaire, or D, survey? Ang sagot sa ating number 2 ay, sabi ni Andrea Jean at ni Juliet Parado, ay letter B, interview. Very good. Juliet and, ayan, dalawang Juliet. Juliet Parado and Juliet Taganahan Rivera. So, interview ang tawag. Siyempre, face-to-face, telephone, and pwede rin video conference ang interview dahil nga sa pandemic. Next, number 3. Blank contains a list of questions and answer options that the researcher will read to the respondents. So, ikaw ang magbabasa ng questions and of course answer options. Is it A, observation checklist, B, interview guide, C, questionnaire, or D, sample survey? The correct answer is B, interview guide. Ayan, interview guide po. Kasi, babasahin mo yung question, di ba? Kung ibibigay mo lang yung question, list of questions sa sheet of paper, or let's say sa Google Sheets or MS Word, this is a questionnaire. Pero kung pupuntahan mo yung respondents mo personally and then babasahin mo yung questions para sa kanya, and then there are options, then there's an interview guide, di ba? Next, number 4, which of the following requires survey? Is it A, census, B, administrative data, C, tracer studies, or D, all of the above? Ayan. Ano nga kaya ang nangangailangan ng survey? Is it A, census, B, administrative data, C, tracer studies, or D, all of the above? Yes, correct. Si Andrea Jean and si Juliet Parado, all of the above. Diba? These are actually types of surveys. And finally, for our last, yes, tama din po si Evangeline Ladao Pamisa Velas Salmoria Catalbas. Ang haba ng pangalan niya. Okay, number 5. A blank questionnaire has gone through the process of psychometric validation, has been piloted and revised. Is it A, researcher made? Bakit researcher made ang B? Hindi ko yata napalitan. C, standardized, or D, computerized? No, ang B dapat niyan is, I remember, dapat teacher made yan eh. O, teacher made dapat yan. Sorry. So, A, researcher made, B, teacher made, no, correction. C, standardized, D, computerized. Ayan, ang sabi ni Juliet Parado is 5C. So, 5C. Si Andrea Jean, 5A. Ang tamang sagot ay standardized, no? Standardized. Okay. Standardized, dapat talagang mag-undergo ng process of psychometric validation and pilot testing and revision. Ang researcher made kasi, yes, dumadaan din siya ng proseso ng validation, establishing the reliability, pilot testing and revise. But sometimes yung iba dahil sa pagmamadali hindi na, no? Kumbaga ini-skip yung ibang steps sa process. But ang standardized kailangan talaga dumaan sa proseso, no? Para siya maging standardized. All right? Okay, now we're down to our last assessment or assessment 2. This is now your application in relation to your research. So what you do or what will you do is to plan and write the data collection procedure of your own research project for practical research 2. Again, go back to your research questions, to your research problem para malaman nyo kung ano ang tamang data collection procedure na gagawin nyo. Siyempre, depende rin yan sa context, no, ng iyong research. Like, pwede ba siyang observation, pupunta talaga kayo sa lugar, or interview, no? Of course, you have to consider also the time and the resources, other resources, or survey ba ang gagawin ninyo, or questionnaire ang gagamitin ninyong data collection procedure. So, you have to plan it out and of course, write what you have decided na data collection procedure sa inyong research study. And again, this is my reference for my presentation, the book by Prieto, Naval, and Carey, Practical Research 2 for Senior High School, published in 2017 by Lorimar Publishing Incorporated. And with that, I say thank you. Maraming salamat sa hindi pagbitaw, ano, hanggang sa puntong ito. Salamat, maraming salamat sa ating mga kapatid na Bisaya. Daghang salamat at sa mga waray nun, no, para sa kanina taga Santa Fe Leyte. I hope nakikinig pa rin siya, nanonood. Damo nga salamat. Again, good afternoon, magandang hapon, maayong hapon, maupay nga kulob. Up next, or maybe now streaming sa Facebook, si Tutor Reverie para sa statistics and probability. Salamat, and kita-kita muli tayo sa susunod na linggo para sa ating Week 5. Yay! Malapit na tayong matapos sa ating school year or quarter 4. See you next week.
Sigurado ako na marami ka na naman natutuhan sa ating ETUlay tutorial session ngayong araw. Tandaan, ito ay hindi lamang para sa ating mga mag-aaral, kundi pati rin sa ating mga minamahal na guro at mga magulang na kaagapay natin para maituloy ang pagkatuto sa kabila ng nararanasang pandemya. Patuloy ding sumubaybay sa DepEd TV para sa mga araling ginawang video episodes. Mapapanood ito mula Lunes hanggang Sabado, alas 7 ng umaga hanggang alas 7 ng gabi sa inyong mga telebisyon. Abangan sa Lunes mula 1:00 ng tanghali ang iba pang aralin sa ating ETUlay free online tutorial session sa Science. I-like and subscribe at manatiling nakasubaybay sa ating ETUlay tutorial session sa DepEd Edtech Unit FB page at Educational Technology Unit channel sa YouTube at sa DepEd Tayo at DepEd Philippines social media accounts. Paalam!